Hello, and welcome to a special edition of the Seeking Heaven channel. It's Happy Valentine's Day. This is a special couples relationship edition. And this is so much, I've heard so much about where this is an area that people want help with. And so why not? This is part of our life, part of our spirituality. So I'm your host, Tamara Calder Richardson, and I'm a 6-time near-death experiencer and as well as an evidential medium Christ channeler and author. And today we have a very special guest. It's a Valentine special, and we're having a conversation about relationships. So if you've never been married, if you've been married, if you're in a relationship now, or you're trying to find that special person, or maybe you've been through a divorce, it doesn't really matter. The point is still the same. You're still trying to maintain or find that special somebody. And there are certain ways to do that where we can be happier and it can be fun. What about that? A relationship can be fun. So I wanted to talk about our guest today. Today, I have Susie and Otto Collins, and they are relationship certified coaches, and they are also the podcast host of Love Made Easy. So welcome to the Seeking Heaven show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara.
Absolutely. Well, you both are so adorable, and I want to hear about, how did you become, because you said this is we were talking a little bit beforehand pre-show that you have a passion about helping other people with their relationships. So tell us how you met and how this brainchild began of this being love relationship coaches.
Well, I was married for 30 years to someone else. And Otto was married to somebody else 20 years.
15 years.
Oh, 15 years. Okay. Yeah, there we got it. and we were both in a spiritual study group with our chiropractor, actually.
Oh, okay.
And we'd both gotten out of those marriages. And I decided I was going to ask him. He's 16 years younger than me. So,
okay, rocking the cradle. Okay.
Yeah. And we did energy work together and separately, and it was like, okay, well, let's trade energy sessions. And
so bear in mind, before this night that we call kind of our soulmate experience, we were just acquaintances. We didn't really know each other that well. Okay. We weren't, we didn't hang out all the time. We weren't best buddies. We just kind of were acquaintances, and we just knew each other a little bit.
So we were trading energy sessions, and maybe your listeners and, people who watch your channel know what I'm talking about. Reiki, polarity.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Okay, so here we were, and at the end I said, oh, would you hug me? Sometimes that's what you do when you trade energy sessions. And well, we could not break away from this hug. It was 2 hours and we were hugging.
Are you serious? You hugged for 2 hours?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like one hug, but it was like an
embrace. Yeah.
So or maybe it was one hug that, wait, okay, let's do it again. Wait, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Well, and it was like, there wasn't anything sexual or anything. It was just this heaven. Like we like to laugh, like the curtain, came open and the angels sang, and
that's sort of what it felt like. But
wow.
It really was like a feeling of, people talk about a soulmate experience, but it literally was like a veil, widened, and it was like a feeling of coming home.
And so, yeah, and we were together ever since.
Yeah.
That was 25 years ago?
That would have been 1997. So
1997.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. But
so that's a powerful hug. I mean, people already, you hooked everybody right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, not everybody has this kind of experience, but what we found out is you got to do some things after this experience. You can't just rely.
Right.
You can't rely on some big dramatic thing happening, and then, oh, well, we're set. You gotta learn some new habits.
Right. Well, one of the things I want to tell the listeners watching today is that, like I said, whether you've been in a relationship, whether you're looking for a relationship, there are certain things that we're going to be able to go over today, and that would be, what are some pitfalls? What are things that work? And you have on your website magic words that you said that I guess enhance a relationship. But there are key things, and even people that have been in long-term relationships, how are we supposed to be with one another, because we change spiritually and our needs change, and how do we become better partners to one another to make that happen so we can grow? And I think that a lot of people don't really realize what they're supposed to do in a relationship. I know that sounds crazy, but they don't. So maybe you could fill us in on that, because we said we were talking about secrets. So I think there are certain keys or secrets to keep a relationship going. Like I said, I've been with my husband 30 something years. It's not perfect, but I actually really like being with him, and we laugh, and
Yeah.
I just like being around him. He just makes me feel good. It's just like a feel good drug. I just, and I just hate when life gets in the way, because when we're more ourselves, we act like little kids and we laugh about dumb things. And I like that part of us.
Probably one of the best things that we could do, to kind of address the question that you're bringing up is very early in our relationship. I remember a conversation that Susie and I had. She had this, and still has this really good friend, somebody that she's been a good friend with for, I don't know, 40 years or so at this point. And she used to go walking and running with this friend. And, one day, what we realized was that she was doing something that a lot of people do, is that she was holding me to a different standard than she was her best friend. And so she was giving her best friend the benefit of the doubt. She was giving her friend, talking to her in maybe kinder or different kinds of ways. And once we realized that, it was like an aha moment where it's like, oh, so how do you talk to somebody that you really love? How do you interact with them? How do you show up in a given moment? And that's a game changer in relationship, is when you just stop and you go, okay, this person that I'm with, they are my beloved.
It's true.
And in order to really have them feel like they're my beloved, and for me to feel like I'm their beloved, how do we need to show up? And then when you start to ask yourself questions like that, it starts to change everything, because if you're holding the other person to a different standard than you are other people in your life, then it's not going to work real well. And so if you're going to show up as somebody that's total love, total giving, total acceptance with somebody else in your life, you got to show up that same way for your partner, your beloved.
And
Wow.
you also have to go into a situation, into a relationship with the idea, oh, I can learn from my mistakes in the past, whether they were mistakes or not, whatever. But I can see something different. I don't have to keep living what I did over and over. So, I certainly learned it. And you learned not to be a people pleaser, didn't you?
Absolutely. So there's
Yeah.
lots of things that,
Mm-hmm.
lots of things, if you're just simply open to seeing, how can I do this differently? Because we've all made mistakes, and starting to really open to questions like that, how can I see this differently? One of the biggest things you can do is, when you're starting to, any conversation, anytime you're interacting with the person that you're with, or even a friend, one of the things that starts to happen a lot of times is, we're around our beloved, we're around our spouse, our partner, our lover, and we're with them for a little while, and we start thinking, oh, the very things that we thought were cute and were funny and all that kind of stuff, then they start to drive us crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realize, oh, well, what just happened here? One of the things that happens is that we start to look at them as, we start to focus on what's wrong with them, what could be different about them, what we'd like to change about them, instead of what's right about them and what is wonderful and what is great and what's beautiful and what's perfect. And a lot of that is focus and what you're choosing to focus on.
Wow, that's true. And that's kind of the same. Would it be the same advice for individuals as well? Because sometimes I find that people beat up themselves, and to find out not what's wrong, but what you can appreciate that you feel is really right about yourself, that you're proud of, is the same. It's cutting yourself, I guess, that same slack too.
Sure. It's loving yourself. I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in being with Otto is loving myself and having total honesty. Before it was like, well, does he really want me to say this? Should I do this? I mean, so many people grapple with that. Is how can I please that other person? How can I be the person that they want me to be? No, stop. And who am I? Who am I at my core? What is it that I really, what's true for me? And we just did our last podcast. I think that was the last one on finding your yes and your no inside, because that's where you speak from. That's where you show up from. That's where you be from.
Well, let me ask you, as it relates to, like, say, people that whether they're divorced or break up, or they're starting to see that separation in a relationship, and you're talking about the importance of living your true, genuine self to yourself and to others. When does that? What do you think happens there? Why is it with? I mean, you've obviously worked with a lot of individuals and couples. When do you see that starting to happen? What makes it erode like that, do you feel?
There's always something in a relationship that is what I call the glue that holds the two people together. And when that starts to erode, the love and the connection and the good feeling and all like that, it's either one, the glue that holds you together is gone, meaning something's different. Either one person is no longer interested in that thing that is the glue between the two of you, or you just simply you're going in different directions, or maybe both of you are changing and evolving. But I know that in our relationship, and this is great because we're on the Seeking Heaven channel with you, that there's nothing more important to us individually and also together than our personal and spiritual growth. That's the core, that's the key, and that's the thing, that's the glue for us. For some people, bowling might be the glue. Some people, drinking might be the glue, whatever that is. But when you think about what's the glue that holds us together, it better be something that's not going to change over time if you want to have a long-term, close, connected, loving, passionate relationship. And you say, well, things always change. Well, you've got to be conscious of what's changing and choose to make the changes that you want. So you're choosing.
I just had if I can just interject something today. I just had a coaching client today, and we had this conversation because she's single and has had a lot of not good relationships that haven't worked out. And she was saying, she's a people pleaser. And she was saying, oh, but when do you start being honest? Because I was talking about finding your core and speaking from that. And I said from the very beginning, you be honest, because her big fear is, oh, I have all these other interests and I don't want, somebody coming in and telling me what to do, or, she was afraid. She was afraid of inviting somebody into her life. And I said, you be honest who you are from the beginning, because what she found and what, I've seen over and over is resentment takes hold if you aren't totally honest about what's inside you and what's your yes and what's your no.
Oh, that's beautiful. So I've got to ask this. I'm thinking the whole time, what about the question of chemistry? And how does that, I mean, first of all, you've got to have chemistry. Now, some people could say, and I'm not talking just looks or good looks, because some people might say, oh, they're attractive. And I go, I don't see it. Or vice versa. I'm like, I don't know. Good, that's great for them. So there's the chemistry, I mean, goes beyond, let's say spiritual chemistry. Let's say there's some kind of, it's a little bit deeper than that. And it's one of those things that you can't quite put your finger on, but I'm not talking about junior high school where you're just looking at someone, their looks. I'm talking about the whole package. So how do you think that plays into it? Because to me, there's a glue that I have with my husband. I don't know what it is about him, but I'm just really into him. I don't know. It's not, it's a package. I don't know what it is, but it is that glue. It's the whole thing. And he goes, we still have this thing. I said, yeah, we do. It's crazy. I'm like, I know. But
Yeah,
it's more than that. So can you speak about that? Because it's one of those intangible, strange things, but it does feel spiritual to me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I can say a little bit about it and then let Otto speak. But I don't think it was any mistake that I was with my first husband. There was chemistry there until there wasn't.
Okay, that's a great answer.
I there were things spiritually that I learned from being in that relationship that I wouldn't trade for anything. And so there was chemistry. But then we just ran out of energy, whatever, and we both knew it was time that it was done. And I think that I feel chemistry with Otto.
Oh yeah, you can totally tell that right away. And it's that thing again. I'm saying you can feel the mesh, like this, like you really like one another. That's what it is. I've been, with my husband, said, you like one another, and I'm like, yeah, we do. I mean, in that kind of, why are you? Shouldn't you like one another if you're together with someone?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody in the world I'd rather have a conversation with than my beloved Susie.
Oh.
And when I think about that feeling that we had that night of our soulmate experience, we still have that. Sometimes we'll be hugged up together, and one of us will say, "You still feel it," and the other will say, "Yeah."
That is adorable.
Not that we are fearful that it's gone, but just as an acknowledgement that that feeling that's still there. But I want to take your question one layer deeper, which is, about chemistry. I think there is such a thing as chemistry, and I also think that there's such a thing as people consciously deciding what that they want to move in the same direction together.
I could not agree more with you.
So if you've got two people that decide that they want to move in the same direction together, I mean, I just finished reading a book about this woman and her life journey and so forth, and now I'm learning that they're in business together, and that is the passion that they have, that they're really doing really well at working together, and that they've got this multi-million-dollar business venture that they're involved in. So you can decide and you can choose how you want to move forward, and by doing that, I think it's so important, consciously choosing how you want to move forward. together. That's the important piece. Is it doesn't mean that you have to be glued at the hip to each other,
Right.
but to consciously talk about, to choose, to decide, to want to move forward together in whatever parts of your life that feel good for you.
And it's not that you don't have bumps in the road, because we do, we have, but the trick is to make sure that you're coming back to that love that you feel for each other, and okay, how can we work this out? What's
Right.
a good win-win for both of us here, and being open to that.
And I also like what you said earlier, Susie, is that it worked. You had chemistry till it didn't work. And I think it's okay with some people and whoever's watching. It's okay that if you get to a point that you're so different, you can't find commonality, you can't find common ground, that you can love that person like you would a friend and say, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to make each other wrong. It's
Yeah.
just, maybe in this way, we're not meant to be together anymore. Maybe we have two different paths, but, I support you in what you're doing, but, it's okay if we have to part ways. Sometimes that's part of the plan, is that people are together for a short time and then no more. And that seems to be actually kind of common with a lot of people. Not everybody stays together. I know we think about that, but that's okay too. I think it's being, if possible, kind to that other person, and kind to yourself during the process. But sometimes it's okay just to let it go and not force it if it's just not meant to happen. What do you think about that?
Well, that was my experience with my ex-husband. We both knew that it was time, and we're, friends, Otto and my ex, I mean, it's not like we get together all the time, but
Right.
you can do it lovingly.
There's a
Right.
phrase I've heard before, which is people, and this is a little different, and this is going to rock some people's kind of view of relationships a little bit. A lot of people get together and they say, okay, we're in relationship, we're married, or we're partners, and this is forever. Well, that can be true, but what if it could be just as true that we come together for a reason, a season, or a lifetime? And you never know which of those it is.
You don't. I think people feel like failure and embarrassment when it's not complete. And so that's a God question. Why do people come in certain times and then are not meant to be together? I tell you, the most unusual relationship is years ago. My gosh, but that I thought it was funny, is that I knew this couple. They were German, and they were together. This married couple that were German. They had kids. Well, they started disagreeing. There's another couple they knew that was also German. They literally divorced the other people and remarried. And then guess what? Then they're all friends afterwards. This is the strangest thing. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going over to each other's for Christmas." I'm like, okay, this is a little bit too much for me, but they're like all fine with it. They're like, yeah, and and they were all like all good with. They were all friends, and they were like happy about it. And I'm going, well, okay then. And so, and they had two. They actually were separate and then divorced, got together, and then they stayed in the family. They didn't, but at Christmas and holiday, they supported one another because they had, I guess, the children, and so they would see each other. And I'm like, wow, that is very odd, because they were so easy about it. But I've seen that done with people. I'm not saying to do that way or not do that way. I mean, maybe it's best sometimes not to see someone, depending if kids are involved. Everybody's different, but getting back. So I think the biggest thing is the guilt. Some people feel that it didn't work, but do you see this a lot with your coaching with people, or does this come up?
Oh, sure. Guilt, we're taught to be guilty. We're taught to put ourselves
Yeah.
yeah, I know, and the big secret is you don't have to. It's not that you don't learn from what happened, but you don't have to carry guilt. In fact, that's really a recipe for disaster, when you carry guilt into a new relationship, that you can't show up honestly and from the core of who you are if you've got this layer of guilt hanging on you.
Oh, that's true. Now, what about people that are divorced and they're looking for someone, but they still have this maybe bad memory? I was going to say they need to contact you immediately, but they're trying to, but they're trying to move on. They really want to. What is the best? I mean, what is the best way for someone to move forward? And maybe it's just a lack of confidence. What kind of confidence talk could you give them, and what to look for moving forward? Because I'm sure you've heard this before.
One of the most important things I think it is for somebody to know is that this moment is all we ever have. This
Mhm. It's true.
And the only time that anything that ever happened in the past can be a problem now or in the future is if you go back into the past and you bring it into the present moment. I mean, your viewers and your listeners are going to know the name Wayne Dyer. Wayne used to say when he was alive about the past, he would say, the past that happened, 30 seconds ago or 5 minutes ago is just as over as the Peloponnesian War. And so what happens is people have pain, disappointment, discouragement, upsets that have happened 5 minutes ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 years, or 50 years ago, and they bring them into the present moment and they call that their reality and they call that the place that they're moving forward from. If you want to have love, you have got to see that it's available to you if you're not shutting it down. That's what people do is they shut themselves down. Oh, I don't ever want to go through that pain again. And so they're focused on what they don't want, what they don't like, what they didn't enjoy, instead of, I wonder what could be possible here. Because when you step into that field of possibilities that's available for all of us, wow. So many people they allow the past to dictate how they see the moment and how they see the future. Now, I think it's great to let the past inform you, but you don't want the past to be the thing that is the driver and the determiner of anything.
I got a great story.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Well, when my ex-husband left, he's the one that left our house, and I spent a few months worrying about him. I mean, I'd been with him for 30 years, so I worried about where he was living and how he was eating and just all this worry, worry, worry. And I remember standing in my living room and thinking, "Oh, wait a minute. What about me? What about me?" Because, for a lot of us, it's really easy to focus our attention on somebody else, whether it's children, whether it's, a partner, whatever, without really considering, what about me? And what do I want in my future? What do I want in my present? And it wasn't, I mean, it might have been, what, 2 months after that you and I got together.
Oh, wow.
But I had,
Wow.
like you said, I had to see possibility
Wow.
because I did not see any, all I could see was 30 years that, with him, with not you, with my ex.
So you were tangled, you were merged into the point. So you probably had to start separating yourself out and asking what you truly wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you've lived with somebody for that long, it's you become, even though the marriage was kind of, running out of steam, I still had to look at myself. What do I want? What's possible for me? And that's when I really want someone who I can share spiritual lessons, spiritual, uh, growth, reading spiritual things, having wonderful conversation with somebody. And it was like, oh yeah, that's what I want.
And also have lots of passion.
Yeah, yeah. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Well, people want that. I mean, that's something that's part of it. I mean, and sometimes that is part of the glue as well.
It is
So,
for us.
Mhm.
It is for
mhm.
us.
Yeah, I think that's something that you can't fake, unfortunately. And that side, we're back to chemistry and passion. It can't be just that, but I think it's something that you can't fake. So it's always interesting to me when I see couples, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't see that, but okay, and other times you can, but you usually can tell by how they are together, and you go, wow, I get that. So now what do you think in a relationship? What do people, they've got to find out who they are. It's got to be spiritual. They need to be genuine. And so for people that are just they're entering the dating scene, what are some tidbits and secrets you can offer them?
If somebody's just entering the dating scene, something I think is really important is getting clear on what you want. And what I mean by that is I've had a lot of people that I've worked with over the years who have said, this dating thing just isn't working out for me. And I'll say to them some version of, well, what is it that you want to have as a result of dating? Oh, well, I'm not looking for anything long term. And then I'll have another person who might say, I'm looking for a lifelong partner. And I'll have somebody else that will say, well, I'm just looking for a friend. But the problem is, most of the time, people aren't really clear.
Oh, I
I'm
got
dating because. So getting really clear, hey, I just want to have a good time. Nothing wrong with that.
it. Mm-hmm.
I want a long-term partner. Yeah, clear about that. So getting clear on, what is my purpose for dating? What's the reason? And you don't have to make it some kind of a thing where it's like really oppressive and hard and difficult. You want to make the whole thing fun,
Yeah.
but
Right.
and totally come from that fun place, and at the same time get clear, this is what I'm interested in. And so many people, they don't take the time to get clear. Oh, this is what I'm interested in.
And also, I'd add, look at your stories around dating, because that was part of what I was talking with this woman about this morning when I was talking to her in coaching session, was her stories around dating. Well, I'm too old, and all the men are not interesting, and they're too old, and they're
Because she's creating that. Okay.
creating the story, and so we talked about, oh, wait a minute, that cuts off a lot of possibilities.
Right.
And because I was over 50 when I got with Otto, and it's like, you don't have to believe in these stories that maybe our culture tells us,
Right.
I'm too fat, I'm too whatever to date, or that this person will take away my freedom. I'm afraid to get involved with somebody because I won't be free or whatever.
Right.
So what I would say is, look at your stories around dating. What are you coming into it with before you even say yes to any kind of date?
So really, you're telling, not to sound like Dr. Phil, but you really want people, what you're saying is to get real with themselves and to say, why am I showing up? Do I just want to have fun? What do I want? And underlying that, what is the message I'm telling myself? I'm this, I'm that. I can't find, but only here. And they're putting limits on themselves. So they just need to clear that out. And the other aspect to it that I'd like to mention is so much of it's done online now. And I have people go, no, I won't do it. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It seems like it'd save a lot of time, I mean, and it opens up the whole world. So, you just started with your little area, which who knows, and now you got the whole world. I'm thinking I'd open up my opportunities, but can you talk about this online dating stuff? Because people, oh no, because of this, but how do you see that's the impact? I'm sure you've heard people talk about this in session.
Yeah, and people find each other that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't close it off. That's another thing that I would say. What's my idea here? But knowing your boundaries, this is true whether it's online or you're meeting somebody at church or whatever. Know what you're about and your boundaries. Just be clear about that, and don't make stories up about the other person that maybe are not true.
Okay. So you're saying having your own dialogue to
Mhm.
fit whatever your narrative is. Okay. All right. So, I'm sure there's horror stories in this and that, but I just think it's important no
Mhm.
matter what to be careful and to have boundaries. I mean, if someone wants to see you, I'm like, yeah, you can get a hotel. Sorry. Right? Sorry, I don't know you. You could be a weirdo.
Two of
right.
my friends met men online, and both of them said, well, he didn't really ask me about me. He didn't, so you got to see, okay, is this really someone who I might be interested in finding out more about? And not make it so hard, have fun.
Well, I think one of the things that what we were talking about this that I just thought it was a riot. So my mom years ago, she decided she was going to do. She's been divorced for years from my stepdad to do eHarmony, and so she's looking at the eHarmony or whatever, and the people we would. I mean, look at her little what do you call it dialogue. I'm like, this is horrible. I mean, people are so serious. And one guy said, "Well, I'm getting a colonoscopy," and then he wrote back said, everything checked out great," and I'm like. Oh my God, this is not sexy talk. This is not dating talk. This is totally inappropriate. This is something you tell, like, I don't know, your doctor. And so it's like people have forgotten, I think, the art of flirting. And if
Yeah.
you're really interested in someone, they want to feel attractive, you want to feel attractive, and there's nothing wrong with learning, just it's called courting.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day where they would close the room and they would court in the little front room where the parents so they get into too much trouble. But it's courting. It's like people have forgotten. I've watched them, and I watch them, like if you go out to eat, and I saw a young couple. I mean, I don't know how young, I don't know, 20, 21, 22. And they had their phones in front of them the whole time. I
Mhm.
mean, that's not dating behavior. And so I think that there are certain things that have dropped out that, I mean, what happened to my sister and I always would kid when my mom thought someone was handsome. She's been divorced she would do what we called the big eye blinky, and she would go, and we were like, oh God, she's doing the big eye blinky. Well, hey, I don't mind at all. And then she'd do her eyes. I'm like, oh God. But things like that. Or women will toss their hair a lot, or do, or guys will puff their chest out, and I think it's cute. I mean, it's innocent, but people don't do the flirting thing anymore. Oh, I am like so into the flirting thing, like drop the hanky. Oh, wait, I have these beautiful high heel stilettos on. I drop the hanky. Oh, look, can you pick that up? Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's fun and people have dropped that out. What do you feel about that? I mean, have you observed this too?
Yeah, but I flirt with Otto all the time.
Well, yeah, you're a master flirter.
Yeah, I mean, it's genuine, it comes. That's all I'd say is don't make up a lot of sorry about shit.
Yeah. You're saying don't just
Yeah.
do things, but however that person is, some people flirt by telling really bad jokes.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And I'll tell you, flirting can be really being genuinely interested in the other person.
Right.
It can be fun. That's what I would say,
It can be all kinds of things. It can be, I mean, there's been plenty of times, in fact, something recently, we're in this fairly large gathering, and I go up and whisper in Susie's ear or something like, how's it feel to be the most beautiful woman in this room?
Oh,
And
that's
I'm serious.
flirting. That's flirting.
Yeah. And I'm serious.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you're dating, it can be just having fun on your mind,
Hmm.
choosing fun, choosing love.
Right.
And
Just a spirit of play.
yeah, playing. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's being more playful and people have gotten so serious. And so maybe that's it. I mean, definitely I wouldn't want to send the wrong signals to someone I was not interested in. But I think it's the playfulness. And
Mhm.
I think that's what's important. But you know what? In a non-sexual way, I flirt with my friends. I go, hey, look at that, you're a winner, and then they'll go, oh, gee, it's
Yeah,
not, I do that with a lot of people just to boost
yeah.
their, confidence or
Mhm.
encourage them. So, but I think it's that act of playfulness. And so, do you think that's important to continue to do that in a relationship?
Yeah, and I love what you said about the phones because we've seen that too,
Oh,
go out to eat and both people at another table have their phones out and
awful.
they're immersed in their phones. And whether you're dating or whether you've been with a person for years and years, give that person attention.
Hmm.
That's flirting to me.
Yeah.
It's
We've
true.
heard, we've
Yeah.
heard it said that when it comes to really truly being with someone, nothing is more important than time and attention. And for that person to really feel like your attention is on them, I mean, that's magical. I
Oh,
mean,
I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many people say that they don't feel important to their partner.
Oh God, that's awful.
And that can be dating or married or whatever. They don't feel important. And this is what you're talking about, time and attention. Are
Yeah,
you
I agree.
attentive when I speak? Are you listening?
Oh, okay. That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right. That's a big one when people that like the phones or they're watching the TV or they're half listening or they're half there. Do you think it's important to because you can't always when you're together every second listen to what someone says because you have life, you have to work, you have to do things and so forth. Do you set up special times that you can just have time you actually talk or communicate?
here's a really radical idea that okay, now really get
Oh
great
no.
this one. Okay, we'll actually ask the other person for their attention. I'll
Or,
actually,
is this a good time?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
and there are times when I'll actually say to Susie, this is really important. I need to share this with you, or there's something I wanted to say, or can we have a conversation about? And then we talk, whatever it is that's present, but to really just stop and to have that conversation, or as Susie said, is there,
Is
here,
this a good time?
yeah, is this a good time? Here's something I want to talk about. Can we set a time later?
I do that.
Mhm.
I do that because if I don't, my husband could be in the middle of doing something and I'm distracting when he's really not fully present. And it's sort of, I'm trying to work on that even more so, hey, it's important. Can we talk about some stuff later on? Usually he'll go put in, what's so important? I'm like, it's not that important. And he'll want to stop and talk about it. I'm like, it's not that important. I'm just saying I just need to go over a couple things. And, and
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I agree because people are busy. And so that gives you time to share and so forth. Wow. So, so many good tidbits. Just putting the phone down and being present and acknowledging the person because to me it's an energy thing, don't you think? It's being in that energy of that person and that essence of who they are.
Yeah.
I like the word essence, but it's being in their essence because that your special somebody has a special energy essence that no one else has. I mean, I can tell when I'm at an airport when my husband gets close. I can feel him. I know where he is. I know if he's in the building or not because there's a certain kind of vibration that I feel as he's coming, toward me. I can feel he always shows up at the airport with roses. Isn't that sweet? I
Oh,
know when I leave town and come back, it's always roses. I know it's so sweet. It's very thoughtful like that. But so that goes to romance. What do you feel about romance, and what are some thoughts that you have on actually being romantic and putting in? It's going to be different for different people, of course, but what do you think about that word, and what do you think about people? What are ways that we can be more romantic in relationships?
well, like you said, it means something different to everybody. And looking at your expectations, being clear if you do have, really big expectations about gifts, for your birthday or whatever, whatever it is that you think is so important that's romantic, But I'll tell you one thing that I consider romantic is that when each of us come home after being apart, we find each other and just make contact.
Mm-hmm.
We kiss, we look at each other, we might say, "Well, how was your day?" But there is contact there. That's romance.
True.
It may not be to
And it's
somebody else.
connection.
And it's connection.
Connection.
Yeah.
You're right. I got to tell you something funny. This is really funny. So when years ago, because we've been together 30 something years, I bought this. It was just a little plaque. It was kind of an RC plaque, and it said, "Always kiss each other goodnight." So I hung it over the bed because I just felt like that we should do that. And because sometimes you get tired, you go to sleep. And then I'd point to the sun. He goes, "What?" I said, and so I even colored her hair in the color like the couple. I said, we should, because I'm like, the dog shouldn't get a kiss and then, you roll over, but we should do that for one another. But it's just, I think it's the little things, but I think what you said was most important is wanting to be in someone's presence and that energy, and deciding if you decide you want to be with that person, then be with them or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, fully be there. What you're saying is be present, be
Totally.
present as a partner.
Something else that's huge about this idea of being romantic, learn what being romantic to that other person is. Actually ask them. I mean, this is another one of those radical ideas. Actually asking them, "Hey, what is your idea of romantic?" If I were to show up as somebody who was romantic, what would I be doing? What's romance to you? Because what I think is romantic and what Susie thinks is romantic and what you think is romantic are going to be totally different things. And we live with so many assumptions that, oh, well, this is romantic. No, it's not.
Or that
You're right.
No.
Oh, that's
That's
huge.
the big one.
That's huge. Susie, say that one more
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah, he should already know what romance is and what I want. Well,
Guess what?
Well,
one of the pitfalls you were talking about is making those
you're
kinds
right.
of
Assumptions. Well, it's funny because now that you're mentioning this, I'm thinking, what do I think is romantic? It's never, we should ask yourself these things. And I think about like my sister, what she would think is romantic. She wants like expensive jewelry, expensive trips, and that's a romantic to her. To me, it's like, just make me a lavender martini and some appetizers and sit, because he doesn't really care about appetizers, but I like appetizers and relaxing and putting on my favorite music. That I don't want all that stuff, So to me, that's simple, but it says I'm important. I know you like this, and so that's important to me. So I guess it depends on what each person, what that would be. So it seems a lot with couples, so it does revolve around food. Right? Because you could cook food together. You can make it a celebration. and make it like something that you do together. I find that that can be, a part, because you do eat a lot. You eat together a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I'll tell you what's romantic with Otto. One thing, he does music night. We have, I don't know
oh,
how many CDs, hundreds and hundreds, and he's my DJ. And sometimes he'll
that
play,
is so cute.
yeah, sometimes he'll play music, from the very beginning of when we were together, and so romance can
That
be
is, I like that.
anything. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't.
Mm-mm.
I love what you said about finding what is romantic to you, because
Mhm.
a lot of times people don't even think about that.
Okay, so one of the things that we do is so silly. It's just ridiculous. It currently be a DJ night, but it's just everybody's different. So, like my brother and his wife, they like playing sports together. They just love doing that. That's their thing. But just to have fun and something that's just, I don't know how we got started on this. It's just really dumb. So what we'll do is we'll move all the furniture and we'll create a Soul Train line, and we'll we'll pull up like Soul Train, and like the really bad dances, like really bad, like it was even bad back then, that we try to imitate those dances, and we try to see who can make us laugh. Like who's the Sometimes I'm just rolling. I have to run to the bathroom because I'm afraid I'm gonna, pee on myself because we do these crazy, and sometimes we'll even dress up, and so we do like a Soul Train night, and because it's just, I know it's dumb, but you can't not laugh. I mean, because it's just darn silly, and it also gets you out of your normal whatever way. It's a good stress release, a lot of good exercise, and and you give yourself permission to act stupid,
Mhm.
which in life you don't always get to do that. So I think that's just some silly. I don't know how we came up with that, but we every now and then we'll do that. We're like, oh, it's on tonight, and we have like a dance off. And he's like, I've been working on my stuff. I said, oh no, you don't know the moves that I've got. And then he's like, no, you just wait. And so yeah, it's an awful lot of fun.
Yeah, so I love how we're broadening romance more
Yeah,
than, flowers, candy,
yeah, no money. You don't have to have any money involved.
no, but I'll tell you, fun is is a big romantic kind of, uh, it brings you both together.
I think so. I think whatever that fun is to
Mm,
you, or
yeah.
whatever it may be, and which would go along with whatever your sense of humor would both be together, they would merge together. So, as far as magic words, I know you mentioned that on your website, magic words. What is a magic word, and what are some examples of that?
Let me take what you were asking about the magic words, and what we were talking about romance. Let's take it even one layer deeper, and the
Okay.
same thing would apply in the bedroom. So what if you an example of a magic word or a phrase might be, I'd really like it if. I'd
Okay.
really like it if. Or you could also say, I'd really love it if. So you're having a conversation, and it's a conversation between the two of you, and you're going, you know, we're doing really well here, but how could we do even better? So those are examples of magic words, because you're consciously creating what you want more of.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
can.
and I have another phrase here. A lot of times, somebody will say something and you'll get reactive, like you'll get defensive. I don't care who it is, what couple, but it happens. And even, I mean, with friends or family or whatever, you get defensive, and really training yourself to, okay, let's not go into the story, but stop and ask the question, can you tell me more about that? I don't know how often that we've done that with each other, that something that we take offense at, or we get defensive. Wait a minute. Let me find out more about what he's thinking.
We
Or,
might actually even say,
yeah,
tell me more about what you're thinking here.
yeah,
Or you might even actually say, I'm really confused. Can you help me understand, you know, how you're seeing this?
That's a good one. That's
mm,
good.
See, because so often we're making so many assumptions about what the other person is thinking, what they're
yeah.
seeing, what they're feeling, how they might react or overreact.
And it turns out you don't even know. I mean, there's no, you're wrong a lot of times.
But think of how powerful it is just to be in a conversation with someone and to say to them, tell me how you see this, and just stop. It's like, wow. Because what that does is that allows the other person to really feel heard, seen, and understood. And you can also say, you can also ask them, would you like to know how I'm seeing this? So we're also talking about asking for permission.
Right.
Not like permission as in,
Mm,
one person's superior to and the other person's inferior to, but just in, asking, would you like? And, if you care about that other person, of course, you're going to open and you're going to open
mhm.
more and more and more.
Right. Well, this is back to your honesty and being willing to listen to whatever someone has to say and know it's going to be safe regardless. And then there's also one thing that I mean, I guess we've kind of danced around it, but being courteous. I mean, here's the thing. If we're polite to everybody else, we should really be polite to our person that we're with. I mean, right? But for some reason, I guess that sometimes I know I leave that out, and I have to make sure to be
Mhm.
polite. That means, what does it mean? Thank you, or ask or permission, and all these things. Is the good manners is still really important. But what's I think is a challenge is that through the years, people develop, people grow. You have circumstances thrown at you, how you handle it separately and together. So this investigative type thing that you have to do with one another. It's got to be somewhat ongoing because we change, don't you think?
Always ongoing.
Yeah.
It's making the choice in the moment that you're curious about what he or she's thinking. What's going on with them. And a lot of times, people shut down to one another because they don't feel heard. They don't feel
Yeah.
like the other person cares or whatever. But if you really seriously, you know, yeah, I'm really interested. Tell me more. Whether you've been together for 1 week or 50 years or whatever, it's
don't you
really important.
don't you think that builds intimacy though, to do that, to say I really care what you think and listen?
Mhm.
And here's the caveat: you got to really want it to know. You got to really care. Because if you say, well, tell me what's going on here, tell me what you're thinking, and your whole body, the whole energy uh, is feeling like no, you really don't care. So
Got it.
there's no replacing genuinely caring and genuinely wanting to know.
And
Right.
when, like, sometimes I'll get defensive, less now than, years ago, but apologizing, oh, hey, I realized that I got defensive and I didn't need to, let,
Right.
let me find out what's going on with you. So we slip up, and being okay and forgiving yourself and apologizing and meaning it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I've done that. Sorry, I called you blankety blank, and that was really immature and an a-hole of myself to do that. And then I get this look like I'm like, it's true. I'm sorry. And then we start laughing, like, because I'm like, it sounds so absurd and ridiculous. But if you live together long enough, we're not perfect. We make mistakes and we say things, and you can always go back. If someone really loves you, they're you know, they're in your corner. I mean, but apologies, um, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that we can apologize to one another. So all of these are really terrific. These are great suggestions. Now I want to ask you, what are some things that are really highlights that maybe we haven't covered that are in your sessions that you see when a relationship is in trouble, and red flags? And maybe there's something you can do about that. Like, you've done all these things you suggested, and really being into that person, really hearing them, not just, as you're looking through your messages on your phone, but really being present, and working on things, building things to do together that you both, want to be a part of, whatever that is, bowling, I don't know, whatever it is. But when is it time to throw in the white towel? What are some red flags that, and I know ultimately it's the decision of both people. I mean, I understand that, but what are things that you think that you can't, that when it's time to gracefully part ways, or versus how to correct it? Because I'm sure you've come like, okay, can this one be salvaged? Can we correct it and help this person or these people, these two people? Or, wow, this looks like whatever.
I think the biggest measurement stick, the biggest thing that determines everything, if there's a relationship challenge that, could be something that's, big enough that it could destroy the relationship, or even people that are just, growing apart. Here's the thing. Do you want to make something special with this person again? So if you really
Wow.
go find a quiet corner and spend some time in, just with yourself, let go of all the stories, let go of the past, let go of anything that you've told yourself about what is and isn't possible, and just simply take a big, deep belly breath and go, if I could create something really special with this person again, would I want to?
And be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself.
And when you're asking that question, you're not dragging all the stuff from the past into the present moment. Well, he or she should have, he or she didn't, or he or she did.
Cheated on me or whatever.
But just in the present moment, if I could, and that's the key, if I could, do I want to? And if you're coming from that place, miracles can happen. Miracles are absolutely possible if you're coming from that place of, I want to and I'm willing to.
And an honest invitation to the other person to be honest as well.
Wow. Yeah, that could be freeing for some people.
Sure.
Yeah. Just to sit in that question can be life changing and relationship changing for, somebody that's hearing that, and to really sit in that question of, do I really want this? If it's possible, because we've told ourselves stories about, well, I don't really like this about them, or they've done this, or they've done that, or, I see the grass is greener on, whatever the story is, just drop all the stories and just come into the present moment and ask yourself, do I want to, am I open to, am I willing to create something special again with this person?
And then see if the other person is willing to do the same, is wanting to do the same, and being okay with, maybe that person is wanting something different.
And that's the work that we do with people, is we take people who are, typically people don't come to people like us when things are going so well. So that's the work that we do with people is, what do you want, and how can we create what you want?
So that's why you were saying earlier, pre-show, we were talking about, I said, do you work with couples? You go, yes, but we work a lot with one-on-one. It's because to help them sort out what they want. I know people that have been in past marriages or relationships, they're still trying to sort out what they want. So it's hard to commit if they don't really know what they want. So you probably help with these things too, right?
One of the biggest challenges of working, and why I don't work with couples together, at least initially. And one of the problems that gets created is you get a couple together where things have been challenging and not going so well. And you want to, they want to start throwing stones at each other, and they want to start making the
He
other
said,
person,
she said.
you want to make this one wrong, and you want to defend, and you want to blame, and you want to have so much judgment. When I'm working with somebody one on one, we drop all of that and we go straight to what is it that you want,
Right.
and that changes everything. When we go to what do you want to create here, given what the situation is, what do you want to create?
Otto, one thing I like what you said too. You said present time. You kept saying present time. And I think it's so important. One of the things that I don't do everything right, not perfect. Well, for some reason, when I first got married to Clay, we made an agreement. We've kept it. And we said, whatever happens, we're going to talk about it, whether it takes, a day, 3 days, a week. We're going to nail this, but when it's done, we'll never bring it up. And we never have brought up anything from the past ever. And we kept that promise because we saw it in other relationships. Well, remember that time you said or did that? We don't do that. And so when I see people do it, it looks really weird and foreign to me because we always agreed that we would stay in present time with what if there's a misunderstanding or confusion or an upset or whatever it is, that we would just handle it, whatever it took, right then and there, and not bring up the past. And I feel like that's something we did right because we actually really don't do that. We don't bring that up. He doesn't bring it up. I don't bring it up. We move forward. We don't bury anything. We just handle it and move on because life's too short. I mean, you're not here that long.
That's beautiful, Tamara, because that's exactly how you can live life. It doesn't have to be hard. Love doesn't have to be hard,
No, and today's a new day, right?
Yeah, right.
Totally.
Yeah.
So they can start from wherever they want. But I love what you said. They have to be, a person has to be honest with what they want. And I think that you either or maybe you're dishonest or maybe you're just plain old dishonest with yourself. You just don't really know. And that sounds like where you both can be of assistance to people to help them kind of, get their own mind together, what they truly want and need. And then when they find out, then their partner can support that. Because if they don't know, how can their partner support that if they have no clue?
Sometimes it's a permission issue too. Sometimes people won't give themselves permission to, number one, want what they want. And number two, they won't give themselves permission to truly have like this big, special, amazing love. And sometimes they won't give themselves permission to own what's theirs, when there's a disagreement. So permission issues are huge in relationships.
Do you think it also has to do? I know that with doing readings with people, a common thing that I see that's just, it's never what they think it is. It's like a ministry work, but there's a lot of lack of self-love I see with people. And it makes me sad because I see the beauty in them, but so many people that I've come across, they feel like that I don't even know what this means, but they're not worthy or they feel like they're less than, whether it's their looks, their achievements, their whatever it may be. And it's sad because, first of all, I don't think any of it's true. I think, I see the beauty in them, but it really stops one's progress in life to hold ourselves back. But imagine someone in a relationship with someone like that. That's got to be difficult because they're not really listening to the other person because they have their own dialogue going on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, I always start with self-love. and helping somebody to really touch into that place within them that, oh, wait a minute, I'm worthy. I'm worthy of love.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, that we have to love ourselves first before we can really show up in a relationship in a healthy way.
Right. And it sounds like that you did the work, and you did the work of the self-love and whatever healing before you would, get in a relationship. There are people that still think the other person's going to fix them. Not true. We have to work on our own self. So that's good that you can also help people with this too. If there's individuals that have this, that need some work with some self-love, because I see that does come up with people, and who knows, it could stem, way far back or whatever. But I think that's so essential to get that handled before bringing another element of another person in there, because it makes it, then it gets complicated if this not handled. But do you see this happening with people too?
Yeah, and I'd have to say that there's also a willingness to learn and grow if you get in a relationship, because I'm not the same person I was when I started with Otto. I'm a much better person. He's a much better person. We've learned a lot about loving by being together. But we started out with that willingness to listen to ourselves, to love ourselves. And that's only grown over time. So I think that willingness has to be there.
No, absolutely. So I'd like to know from each of you. It's Valentine's. What are you planning for Valentine's? Anything special?
We haven't talked about it.
Well, first you need to ask permission. It's a good time to talk, and then come up with some solutions.
Yeah, we'll have something fun that we dream up. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We've got a my husband Clay's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking, okay, pressure. I don't know. It's something fun. I don't know. And so, but you know what? It's back to what's, I, I like doing silly things, but it can be simple. It really is not a big deal to me, just as long as it's something fun, you know. And I do like dark chocolate covered strawberries. Yummy. That's a treat that is kind of decadent. You don't eat every day, but I do like that with champagne. That would be excellent on Valentine's. So not so much for him, but for me, that would be great. So I guess it's just the little things.
One little thing about Valentine's Day, though, that's it's something I think it's interesting. We decided to get married on Valentine's Day.
Are you serious? Well, my gosh, there's your celebration right there. Oh my gosh.
It's one of our 3 anniversaries. We have 3 anniversaries each year. Valentine's Day, when we actually decided to get married, we're laying in bed on Valentine's morning, and we said, okay, why don't we get married? And so we literally decided, we're laying in bed. We decided. So, 3 months or so later, we get married, and so that's literally what happened. So we have 2 other anniversaries. We have the anniversary that's our true anniversary, which is in June, and then we have December the 4th, which is the anniversary of our first date.
Oh, well, see, that's romantic in itself that you remember and all of that. We have certain highlighted features that we remember certain dates on too, that were pivotal points, I think, that for us. And you're developing your own story, and I think it's beautiful when a couple has their own story, especially because life can be difficult, and it's how you go through it together. And we've got, especially, like, we've gone through several people that have in the family that have died. I mean, a lot of people break up after that kind of thing, and we haven't. We're like, well, this sucks, let's just hang in there together. and we did. I mean, there's certain things that are just awful. You have to go through life stuff. And it was the opposite for us. We came together more. I mean, we didn't, but some people can't, get through certain things like that when there's a lot of that going on. But isn't the person you're with supposed to be your best friend?
That's what we think.
That's what we think. But not everybody chooses that.
That's tragic.
I mean, it's funny. You were saying some people choose to be in business together and that works for them. My husband and I have been in business in the past. We own an advertising agency, but undercurrent, like if you get real, like go underneath, what we really like doing is creating things together. Not really. It doesn't really, there's money is not necessarily attached to that, unfortunately, but we like being creative together because we do really good creative stuff together. Like with the ad agency, we've done, did really great work. We won awards. And so we love doing creative endeavors, even as working in our house and redoing tiling in the floor or anything like that. We just love anything that's creative together.
Yeah, that's totally right. And one of the things that we've enjoyed, you're talking about creating together. we've really enjoyed over the last 20 years or so of teaching people about love together.
Yeah,
That's really been a passion of ours. To we very early in our relationship, when people started asking us, you have such a great relationship, how do you do that? And we started to give talks here and there. That's one of the things we truly love, is to be able to share the love that we have and send it out into the world and just help people however we can. So that's a connecting point with us.
And you also, but you're both certified coaches, so you definitely decided to take it in a professional level. And now you have this podcast. Tell everybody about your podcast, and also want to tell them how they can get in touch with you. And I know you've got Susie and Otto.com, and you'll have everything below in the links. But tell them, if they're thinking about this, what is the process, and also about the podcast.
So the podcast is called the Love Made Easy podcast, and it really is just exactly that. We want to make love easy for people. People make it way more difficult than it has to be, and so we want to take the mystery out of it, and we want to sort of dumb it down for people. And it's like, okay, here's how you have a great relationship. Here's how you expand love. So that's what the podcast is all about. It's Susie and I. We've had
chit-chatting.
Yeah, we're just talking, and we're just sharing with people what works in the real world, and it's just fabulous in that all the topics that we've covered over the last number of episodes. I mean, as of the time we're talking with you, we've had, I think, 55 episodes. So
wow.
And the biggest thing I would think that for the folks that have been watching or listening, if there's anything that we've said that you go, wow, I'd like to talk to them more about this, or this, this thing in my relationship, I'd like it to be better, or this aspect, reach out to us and let's have a conversation, because that's where the magic happens, is in conversation. We put out a lot of free content on the internet. We have email newsletters we send out free articles all the time from our website at susieandotto.com. We have a Facebook group, but the main connecting point is our website at susieandotto.com.
And you can contact us there on our contact page.
Right. You got the contact, and you can also, it looks like that you can offer like if you got a free question, just see if you can answer it. And so I love how that they can, for a higher, if they need some supportive coaching and so forth, but there's a lot of free information too. Yeah. And also I'm sure you'd be willing to talk to someone to see, how can we help? I see how this might play out. So I think this is an incredible resource for people, because it's like if you want to go to a bodybuilder, right? Or you want a fitness trainer, you don't want to go to someone little puny person, right? They look malnourished. You want to go to someone like kind of, beefed up, right? That knows what they're doing, that's really into it. And it's great that you're a married couple that loves one another, and that, that this is the successful in their own marriage, as well as certified coaches, because, you're a living example and you want to go to someone that is like that. But thank you both so much. You have been such a delight. You are just, you're the best kept secret for Valentine. That's what it is. You're the secret. So now people can go get assistance, and you don't have to bring in the other person. It can just be you. You can work on you and get your head straight and what you need. And that's really what matters too. And that's kind of probably going to be a lot of a relief to a lot of people is
Yeah.
that they don't need to bring the other person or talk them into it. They can just go and get a lot of help for themselves and then see where that goes. So
Totally.
thank you both so very much. I appreciate your time, and this has been delightful. And hopefully this will help a lot of people to kind of turn on the light bulb to see, what they, just there's a few things in there that if they just incorporate it, I think can help enhance their marriage, just what we have right here, or their relationship. So thank you both so much, and happy Valentine's Day. Take care.
Thank you.